I almost didn't report this. I probably should have. It happened in October 2020, near Mount Mitchell in the Appalachians. I was 31, and it was supposed to be a weekend hike with two friends. We were all experienced, ex-military, nothing fancy, just a two-night trip with ultralight gear. The plan was to hit the Mount Mitchell Trail from Black Mountain Campground, loop around the Buncombe Horse Range Trail, and set up camp near Commissary Ridge. Isolated, but not totally off-grid. Made good time the first day and camped around 4,200 feet elevation. Night fell fast. It was cold, but not unbearable. Stars were out. Fire was going. Nothing felt off. Until maybe 2 a.m. That's when I heard someone crashing through the woods. Not walking. Running. The three of us were awake instantly. We killed. The fire went dark. You don't just sprint through the Appalachians at night unless you're being chased. Or you're chasing something. The footsteps came within maybe 30 feet of our tents, then stopped. Nothing. No breathing. No movement, just dead silence. I had my Glock 19 in hand, finger ready, and I called out, "Who's there?" Nothing. Then we heard the laughter. Not loud. Not forced. Just this quiet, breathy chuckle, like someone trying not to fully lose it. I stepped out with my flashlight and swept the trees. That's when I saw him. This guy, white male, maybe 40s, bald or shaved head, standing between two trees. He wasn't carrying anything. No pack, no gear. Just a filthy green thermal shirt and jeans. No shoes. And he was grinning. "Buddy, you lost?" I called out. My voice was steady, but my stomach dropped. He didn't answer, just kept smiling. Then, he turned and walked off into the dark, like he didn't have a care in the world. Not fast, just casual. We packed up immediately. Hiked by headlamp for 2 hours straight until we hit the Forest Service road and camped on gravel. None of us slept. Next morning we made our way back to the parking lot and found a park ranger. We told him what happened, and he didn't even look surprised. He said, and I quote, "Yeah, we've had reports of a man up there. Doesn't carry gear, doesn't seem to camp, just kind of lurks. Doesn't approach groups, usually." That last word chilled me. I pressed him, and he clammed up. Told us to file a report and stay off the unofficial trails, but here's the worst part. A week later, I get a call from one of the guys I hiked with. He'd gone through his GoPro footage. At one point, maybe 2 hours before we saw the man, you can see something behind us in the trees, just for a second. A face, watching. And here's the thing, it's the same guy. Same green shirt, same smile, which means he'd been following us for hours, maybe longer. We never saw or heard him again. Never hiked Mitchell again either. People think the wild is dangerous because of bears or terrain. It's not. It's dangerous because out there, when no one can hear you scream, there are people who know exactly what they're doing, and they don't want to be found. I haven't talked about this in years. It happened in June of 2015, somewhere in the Pisgah National Forest, North Carolina. I was 22 and camping solo, something I'd done maybe a dozen times before without issue. I'd gone out for a long weekend. I had a Friday through Monday off, and I wanted to spend it off-grid, away from everything. I picked a spot a few miles, off one of the lesser-used trails, near a little stream. It wasn't a designated site, no fire ring or markers, but it was flat and secluded. I brought a tarp, my old ALPS tent, a hatchet, and enough food for 3 days. Friday and Saturday were uneventful. I hiked, read, fished a little. Didn't see a single other person. The forest was quiet, peaceful, just birds, bugs, the occasional squirrel. I had no cell service at all, which was what I wanted. Then came Sunday night. Around dusk, I started hearing this whistling. At first I thought it was a bird, high-pitched, 4 notes, kind of sing-songy. But it repeated the exact same way every time. 4 notes, then silence. A few minutes later, again. Always from the same direction, west of my camp, deeper into the woods. It kept going for over an hour, every 10-15 minutes. Eventually it stopped, and I went to bed around 10 p.m. Around 1:30 a.m., I woke up to a noise, Not the whistling, but something moving. Footsteps. Slow, deliberate. Crunching leaves just outside the tent. I laid there, frozen, listening. The steps circled the tent once, then again, slower. My hatchet was in the vestibule, zipped outside the main tent. Stupid. Then came the whistling. Same 4 notes, but now right next to the tent. Whoever it was, they were standing right outside. I didn't move. I barely breathed. After a minute or two, I heard the footsteps again, this time fading away. I waited until dawn, packed my shit, in under 10 minutes, and started hiking out. No breakfast, no coffee. Just grabbed my gear and left. About a mile into the hike, I found something that made my stomach drop. On the trail, placed dead center in the path, was a small bundle. 3 things tied together with red string. A bird skull, a tuft of deer fur, and a tiny wooden carving of a stick figure, maybe 5 inches tall. It looked freshly whittled. I didn't touch it. I made it back to my car and drove straight back to Asheville. Didn't even stop to eat. I've camped since, but never alone. Not after that. 2 years later, I found a thread on a survival forum about creepy encounters in the Appalachians. One of the top comments was a guy who'd heard the same 4 note whistle while hiking the same general area. That post had over a dozen replies, all different hikers, all describing the same whistle, the stick figure carvings, the feeling of being watched at night. One guy said he'd found a tent slashed to ribbons, still full of gear, abandoned off a side trail near Linville Gorge. No sign of the person who owned it. I don't know if it's one person or more. Locals think it's a backwoods squatter, maybe multiple, maybe a cult. I don't care. I'm not going back to find out. This happened in July of 2021, just outside the Appalachian Trail corridor in western North Carolina, about 15 miles north of Hot Springs. I was 29 at the time. My friend Jay and I were on a weekend trip. Not even hardcore backpacking, just a 2-night loop using side trails to avoid the heavier traffic on the AT. We weren't far from civilization, maybe 5 miles from the trailhead, near a ridgeline called Dean's Hollow. Dense woods, rocky slopes, and not much foot traffic. It was hot and humid, but we'd found a decent spot to rest around 4 p.m. on the second day. That's when we saw him. This guy comes out of the trees maybe 50 yards uphill, carrying a long, walking stick and wearing a hunting vest, one of those orange mesh ones, but nothing else that made sense. No water, no pack, no gear, just a stick and this blank stare. Balding, beard down to his chest, dirty clothes. He looked like he hadn't spoken to another person in a long time. Jay waves and calls out something friendly. I didn't say anything. I had a weird feeling, that gut says go kind of thing. The man doesn't wave back. He just nods once, very slowly, and turns into the brush again. We waited a few minutes, packed up, and kept moving. We figured we'd find a flatter spot, before nightfall. About an hour later, while skirting the edge of a rockfall zone, Jay stops and whispers, "Don't move." Across the rocks, maybe 80 feet ahead, the same man is just standing there, middle of the trail, no expression, just watching us. We call out again, louder this time. I'm already gripping the bear spray, ready to draw the knife from my belt. He turns and walks away, slowly, and disappears into the trees again. At that point, we were fully spooked, so we pushed another couple miles toward a primitive shelter marked on an old map. Jay wanted to report it to the ranger station in the morning, but it didn't wait that long. It was around dusk when he came back. We were taking a break on a sloped section of trail. I had my boots off, feet throbbing, when suddenly Jay shouted. Turned just in time to see the man charging downhill, screaming like an animal, swinging that walking stick like a bat. Jay barely got his arms up before the guy slammed it across his shoulder. It snapped in half from the force. I tackled the guy from the side and we all went down hard onto the rocks. I don't remember the fight in clear flashes. It was fast, stupid, desperate. He bit Jay's forearm. Drew blood. Tried to gouge my eye. I elbowed him in the throat, and he gurgled something in what I swear to God was not English, just gibberish. He clawed at my jacket pocket like he was trying to steal something. I think he was high. Or not right in the head. I got him in. A chokehold. Jay kicked him in the face, twice. He went limp. We didn't wait to see if he was playing possum. We bolted, left half our gear, just ran. It took us nearly 5 hours, mostly in the dark, to get to the trailhead. We both still had our phones in dry bags, and we called the sheriff. Once we hit signal, they sent deputies and a search team out the next morning. They found nothing. No man. No broken stick. Not even our gear. They said there'd been similar reports. Always vague. A guy living rough out there. Squatter. Maybe ex-military. Violent. Delusional. But never caught. The weirdest part? Jay's arm. The one the guy bit. The cut got infected. Badly. Doctors couldn't identify the bacteria strain. Said it was unusual. He was on IV antibiotics for nearly 2 weeks. I don't camp without a firearm now. And I don't hike where there's no one around to hear.